You know what's absolutely wild? Right now, as you're watching this video, you might actually be collapsing wave functions with your consciousness. And I'm not talking about some new age pseudoscience here. I'm talking about legitimate quantum mechanics that has physicists pulling their hair out for over a century. Because here's the thing that nobody really tells you. The universe at its most fundamental level doesn't seem to exist in any definite state until something observes it. And that something might just be you. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're standing in a completely dark room, and someone tells you there's a coin spinning in the air. You can't see it, you can't hear it, you can't touch it. Is it heads? Is it tails? According to our everyday logic, it has to be one or the other, right? But quantum mechanics says no. That coin is actually both heads and tails simultaneously, until the moment you turn on the light and look at it. And the really disturbing part, the act of looking doesn't just reveal which side it was, it literally forces the coin to choose. Your observation creates the reality. Now I can already hear some of you thinking, okay, that sounds like complete nonsense. And honestly, that's the only sane reaction. Even Einstein hated this idea. He spent the last decades of his life trying to prove it wrong because it bothered him so much. He famously said, God does not play dice with the universe. But here's the kicker. Every single experiment we've done for the past 100 years keeps proving that yes, actually, God does play dice, and you're holding the dice cup. So let's dive into this rabbit hole together, because what I'm about to share with you isn't just going to change how you think about physics. It's going to change how you think about reality itself, consciousness, and your place in this bizarre universe we call home. And fair warning, once you really understand this, you can't unsee it. The world will never look quite the same again. The story really begins in 1927 with Werner Heisenberg and Niels Bohr. These two weren't just smart. They were the kind of smart that makes other smart people feel inadequate. And they stumbled onto something that would haunt physics forever. They discovered that when you zoom in far enough, when you get down to the level of electrons and photons, the rules completely change. An electron doesn't have a definite position until you measure it. Before measurement, it exists in all possible positions at once. It's not that we don't know where it is, it's that it literally isn't anywhere specific. The electron is smeared out across space like a ghost, existing in multiple places simultaneously. Only when you observe it does it suddenly snap into a single location. And this is where things get really unsettling. Because the obvious question is, what counts as an observation? Does it have to be a human? Does it have to be conscious? This question has divided physicists for decades, with no clear answer in sight. But let's focus on what we can actually test. In 1961, physicist Klaus Jønsson did something beautiful and terrifying with the famous double-slit experiment. Here's how it works. And I need you to really pay attention, because this is where reality breaks. You take a barrier with two tiny slits in it, then you shoot electrons at it one at a time. Just one electron. You'd expect each electron to go through one slit or the other, right? But that's not what happens. When you're not watching which slit the electron goes through, it somehow goes through both slits at the same time. It interferes with itself like a wave. One electron, two paths simultaneously. But here's where your brain should start hurting. The moment you set up a detector to see which slit the electron actually goes through, the pattern changes. The electron suddenly behaves like a normal particle, going through just one slit. The act of observation literally changes what happens. Think about that for a second. The electron somehow knows whether you're watching or not, and it changes its behavior accordingly. It's like reality is playing by different rules depending on whether anyone's paying attention. This has been repeated thousands of times with increasingly sophisticated equipment. It's real, it's measurable, and it's absolutely banana. Now here's where most people's understanding stops, and that's a shame because the really interesting questions are just beginning. If observation affects reality at the quantum level, and everything in the universe is made of quantum particles, then does that mean observation affects everything? Does it mean your consciousness is literally shaping the world around you? These questions have led to what physicists call the measurement problem, and it's not solved. We have multiple competing interpretations of quantum mechanics. The Copenhagen interpretation basically says measurement causes collapse and refuses to elaborate on what measurement really means. Then you've got the many worlds interpretation, which says that every quantum measurement splits reality into multiple universes where every possible outcome happens. According to this view, there are versions of you in countless parallel universes, each having experienced slightly different outcomes of every quantum event in history. Some physicists, like Roger Penrose, have suggested that consciousness itself might be a quantum phenomenon. That your brain might be leveraging quantum effects to produce the mysterious thing we call subjective experience. If that's true, then the relationship between mind and quantum reality gets even more tangled. So now we arrive at the problem, and it's a big one. We live in a world where the scientific evidence increasingly suggests that reality at its most fundamental level is probabilistic and observer-dependent. But we also live in a world that feels solid, deterministic, and independent of our thoughts. You can't think a brick wall away. You can't observe yourself into being a millionaire. The world pushes back. So how do we reconcile quantum weirdness with everyday experience? This gap has created massive confusion, and honestly, a lot of people have taken advantage of that confusion. You've probably seen books claiming that quantum mechanics proves you can manifest anything with your thoughts. And look, I get the appeal. But that's not what the science actually says. The real problem is that quantum effects generally wash out at large scales. When you have billions of particles interacting, all those quantum probabilities average out into something that looks classical and predictable. This process is called decoherence, and it's why your cat is either alive or dead, not both. The environment constantly measures quantum systems, collapsing them into definite states faster than you can blink. You can't exist in superposition because the universe won't let you. You're being observed by everything, all the time. But here's the thing. Just because you can't manifest a Ferrari by thinking about it doesn't mean the quantum nature of reality is irrelevant to your life. In fact, understanding the real relationship between consciousness and quantum mechanics might be even more profound than the New Age version. First, let's talk about what we can actually say with scientific confidence. Your brain is a physical object made of quantum particles. The neurons firing in your head right now involve quantum processes. So in a very real sense, your thoughts are quantum events. Not metaphorically. Literally. Every thought you have involves the collapse of countless wave functions in your brain. Now, does that mean your thoughts can influence reality outside your brain? Well, here's the interesting part. They already do, just not magically. Your thoughts influence your actions. Your actions influence the world. And in influencing the world, you are absolutely collapsing wave functions and creating definite realities from probabilistic possibilities. Every choice you make is a measurement that shapes the future. Think about it this way. Right now, the future exists as a quantum superposition of all possible futures. What you'll eat tomorrow, who you'll talk to, what decisions you'll make. None of these are determined yet, and your consciousness, through the choices you make, will collapse those possibilities into one actual timeline. You are, quite literally, creating your reality through observation and choice. And here's something even more fascinating. Recent experiments have shown that quantum effects might persist in biological systems longer than we thought possible. Things like photosynthesis in plants and navigation in birds seem to use quantum coherence in ways that shouldn't be possible. Stuart Hameroff and Roger Penrose have proposed that consciousness might arise from quantum processes in tiny structures called microtubules inside neurons. If they're right, it would mean consciousness is genuinely quantum mechanical, and the relationship between your mind and reality is even more intimate than we thought. But let's bring this down to earth with something practical. Whether or not consciousness is quantum, we know for certain that attention and observation shape our subjective experience of reality. Your brain filters out the vast majority of sensory information you receive. What you perceive as reality is a carefully curated selection of data that your brain has decided is important. Two people can look at the same scene and see completely different things because their attention highlights different aspects. In a very real sense, you are creating your experienced reality through where you place your attention. Not the objective reality out there, but the subjective reality in here, which is the only reality you ever actually experience.
So, here's the solution, the practical takeaway from all this quantum weirdness. You can't think yourself into a different physical reality, but you can choose where to place your attention, and attention is a form of observation that shapes your experienced reality. You can make choices that collapse the quantum superposition of possible futures into the timeline you actually want to live. You can recognize that every observation you make is an act of creation. And maybe, just maybe, if consciousness really is quantum in nature, there are aspects of reality that are more malleable than we think. Quantum entanglement means that particles can be correlated across vast distances instantaneously. If your consciousness is quantum, could it be entangled with other conscious beings? These are open questions. These are the frontiers. Because here's what we know for sure. You are a quantum being living in a quantum universe. The particles that make up your body have existed since the Big Bang, recycled through stars and planets and countless other living beings. You are literally made of stardust that learned to observe itself. And when you observe, when you pay attention, when you make choices, you are participating in the eternal quantum dance of possibility collapsing into actuality. You are the universe experiencing itself, measuring itself, creating itself moment by moment. That's not mysticism, that's physics. So the next time you make a decision, the next time you choose to pay attention to something, remember, you're not just passively experiencing reality, you're actively participating in its creation. Your mind doesn't alter the universe through magic. It alters the universe because your mind is part of the universe, made of the same quantum stuff, and every observation you make ripples out into the cosmic probability field, collapsing possibilities into one concrete reality.
You are quantum mechanics in action. You are the observer and the observed. You are how the universe knows itself. And that makes every moment of your consciousness a small miracle. Now go forth and observe wisely, because reality is watching back.